Hello, spooky friends. This is me again, Peter Collins, and
This is Laurie Collins.
we are going to review Halloween.
That's right, Halloween. In time for Halloween, we're getting
Yes.
this one in. So,
Although I do have to say that they did not put it out at the beginning of October, maybe when they should have. So they
yeah, I'm
actually
thinking.
put it out late.
Yeah, okay. Because I was wondering, I'm thinking, shouldn't this be out so enough time you can kind of,
Yeah.
are you going to want to see it after Halloween? I think we have the answer to that. We're also going to do a name drop at the end of this episode. Peter has a particularly fun encounter with Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yes.
Who
yes,
is
I
the
did.
star of Halloween and the star of the original Halloween.
Right.
And shall we go?
Well, just to go back real quick,
Yeah.
the star of the original Halloween, Jamie Lee Curtis, is in
Yeah.
this film. She was only in 4 of them.
Okay, how many are there? Do you know how many
There
total?
are, I want to say there's 8,
Uh-huh.
and she was only in 4. She was in the first 2, and these last 2, she was in H2O, and, I shouldn't say the last 2. She was in H2O, and then she was in this one because Rob Zombie came in.
Okay, he
started
took
making
over some Halloween
Right.
on the franchise, so
Right.
started doing something for the franchise. Well, I've only seen possibly the first 2, maybe. I do recall, I'm not a horror movie fan. I used to stay away from them because they used to scare the hell out of me as a kid, and Halloween was one of those that came out around the time I was probably about 11, 12, so I definitely wasn't going to see this. But it being such a classic movie, oh, look at the shadows, that I eventually did see it maybe once or twice. So I do have some recollection. I'm a little familiar with the story and everything going into this one. So.
And I'm older, so I actually went to the theater and saw the first one.
Uh-huh.
And when I first sat down and watched it in the theater, I was actually sitting down like I'm sitting down in the chair now. And by the time it was over, my back was actually in the seat. While it
Scared the hell out of you.
Yeah,
Huh?
it got me.
It got
And
you, yeah.
When I left the theater, walking back to the car, I was actually in Hollywood, and had to go past or down the neighborhood, and I stopped when we got to an alley and peeked down the alley to make sure Michael Myers wasn't waiting for me.
And you're a big Michael Myers fan because you've dressed up as him. You've dressed up as him for Halloween quite a bit. And hopped in people's cars.
Everything.
So, then coming to that with this film, I have to say I really enjoyed this film. Get this moth out the way. For not being a horror movie buff, not being a Halloween expert on this franchise, I thought it was a really good movie. And I have to say, one thing it did, I knew going in it wasn't going to scare me, like the way it used to as a kid, or there wasn't the gore factor doesn't bother me as much as it would have in the past, but it made me feel unsettled. It made me think when I go home, I'm going to have to check the closet. I'm gonna be more conscious of looking behind things and looking my surroundings. In fact, when I got to the car, I had to look in the back seat. It did unsettle me to a certain extent. It was effective in that respect.
Well, I did really like this movie. At first, when I was watching it, I was thinking, okay, they're not doing it quite right. This is not quite the way they should do it. But as it turned out, it's exactly the way they should have did it, because towards the end, Michael Myers became Michael Myers, which I really loved, because after a while in some of the movies, he became a slasher, and that's not who Michael Myers was. That's not who John Carpenter made him out to be, and I think they took that and returned that.
I was just listening to a podcast interviewing John Carpenter, and he mentioned how he had $300,000 to make the original film and went on to make boatloads, but after the original Halloween, when they wanted to change the concept, he divorced himself from the entire project. He didn't think they had good ideas, but when the producers who do this film contacted him and told him their ideas, he was like, "Yes, I'm on board. They invited in him. It's like, let's make a good Halloween movie," and I think they did that here.
Yeah. Yeah, because like I said, the first 2 Halloween movies was made by John Carpenter. I know he wrote the first one. I don't know if he actually wrote the second one. But I know he wrote the first one, and it was unbelievable. And by the way, I had a crush on Jamie Lee Curtis.
I think you and many other men did. And probably quite a few women. I wouldn't be surprised, you know. But in this film, and I'll read the back of the synopsis of this, is Laurie Strode, who is Jamie Lee Curtis, has come to her final confrontation with Michael Myers, the masked figure who has haunted her since she narrowly escaped his killing spree on Halloween night 4 decades ago. And there's a little bit of like Terminator 2, preparing, getting redemption, fighting back. This takes from a little bit, but I think it's enough of a departure that I didn't find that distracting, especially as I'm a huge Terminator fan. So, and I'm looking forward to that kind of stuff. Yes. But one of the things I liked that they did with her character in this, and that she's preparing, she's getting guns, she's trained. But they didn't turn her like they did with Sarah Connor or Linda Hamilton. They didn't turn her into this killing machine. Right. That wasn't. She was still scared. She was still nervous. She was still very human, like anybody else would be. Humility. And I like that they portrayed her like she's the older crazy lady that her family just doesn't understand. But she is like, no, you better listen to Grandma now. Right.
Because at first they were kind of portraying her as though she was the cat lady without cats. Right. And she is such a good actress. Yeah, she was great in this, and so it's. Anything else I'm trying to think of on it? Well, it's been a couple of days since I've seen it. Well, the movie itself, the new Halloween, you definitely want to go see it, even if you have to see it after Halloween.
Yeah, it's too bad they didn't release it earlier in the month because we're coming up on, in a couple of days will be the 31st, and you'll want to see this before Halloween, I think. It made me scared of Halloween again. For me, Halloween's been a fun holiday, and now at this time I'm like, a little creeped out by it after this movie,
Well, I'm telling you, I had ordered the new Michael Myers mask. At first, I didn't think it would be something that I wanted, but I looked at it, really did some studying on it, and I said I definitely want it because I don't know how many of you guys know it, but the original Michael Myers mask was actually Captain Kirk.
What?
Yeah. And they painted the mask white because they didn't. Remember they only had a budget of $300,000. Yeah. It made $70 million.
Yeah.
But they were figuring, okay, what's the mask? And they couldn't, for that amount of money, you couldn't come up with your own mask.
You couldn't custom design anything. You just
they got a Captain Kirk mask, painted it white. There you go.
There you go.
There's the mask. And they always called Michael Myers in his credits. They called him the Shape, and they're still doing it, and I love it.
Yeah, that's good. And so I will say about the ending. I'm not going to give away the ending of this movie, but I found it frustrating and satisfying at the same time. It was, I wish I could say something.
Because in this, one of the good things is that yes, she's the crazy old lady, but she has had a daughter, and she has a granddaughter, and if you are a fan or have seen the original Halloween movies, you will get all the references that they made to it. Not just in speaking, but just things that happen. Certain, when you look here, this happens, when you look there, that happens.
That call back to the original films, right? Yeah. So, that's really cool that they do that.
Now, there is one thing that I do want to kind of spoiler alert, but not really, but kind of spoiler alert. This takes place in Haddonfield. Well...
I'm glad you're going here.
Okay. Well, Michael Myers is now walking down the street of Haddonfield like he's known to do, and it's on Halloween night like he's known to do. and he comes across this black couple. And you see him stop, and he kind of does the Michael Myers, head one way, head the other, and you can see him thinking, black people in Haddonfield?
I am happy to say no black people were harmed in the filming of this movie, in the making of this movie. In fact, I have to point out one kid, the character Julian. There's this kid in there who's hilarious and great, and I think he's pivotal in one scene in making one of the characters kind of setting up the loss of one of the characters, so that it gives you an emotional pull. And I thought that was great to do that. But thankfully, Julian is safe and running. It's probably still running to find somebody. I think Julian is still running. So Halloween, go see it before Halloween if you can in the theaters.
Still go,
yeah.
Go 2 or 3 times because it'll be great for next year.
Yeah. So and this is coming from somebody who is not a Halloween if you're not into Halloween movies, and from somebody who is into Halloween movies, so we can recommend it. And now we're going to do our name drop.
Yes.
Why don't you tell your story?
Well, okay. I was in my 20s, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was in my 20s, and I was working in Santa Monica. And I had been working on making a fake guitar that looked like Prince's white guitar that was in Purple Rain. So I was making that. I taking it to work with me to put on some extra stuff on it while I was at lunch. But I also had my book with me with a lot of pictures in it from when I had been doing some Prince lookalikes. So I'm walking to the bus stop, and as I'm going past this yogurt place, I look, and who's in there but Jamie Lee Curtis? She's feeding her kid. I think it was her son. Mm-hmm. Might have been her daughter, my son, I'm not sure. But anyway, she was feeding her kid, and I was, like I said, huge Jamie Lee fan, and enjoyed her work, but enjoyed her look even better. So I went into this yogurt place knowing I wasn't going to order any yogurt, but I would go ahead and do it just because I was going to be in the place.
Sometimes you just want to let me just get a peek at this person and then and get out.
But she looked and she saw that I had this huge thing under this, it was towels actually. Mm-hmm. And she said, "Excuse me, is that a gun?" And I turned to her and I said, "Oh, well, no." And I was like, "Oh, Jamie Lee Curtis is talking to me." So I revealed that it was a guitar, and I told her that I made it, and she said, "Wow, that's really good." And I said, "Yes, I do Prince lookalikes." And she said, "You do?" So I opened my book and I showed her, and she was looking through the book, and she looked at me and she goes, "Wow, these are really good." She goes, "Look at this one." And she goes, "Well, fuck me." And I'm standing there like, she's got that baby in her hand. So I just didn't know how to take it, because that was the first time I ever heard that, and I didn't know that it was just something somebody would say. Oh, and yeah. And so I was like, "Where?" And it was Jamie Lee Curtis saying it to you. Place, and Jamie Lee Curtis just told me this, and I was like, it must just be something they say, because. Yeah. But anyway. So. Jamie Lee, you're still looking good, girl. You're still looking good.
Meet me for yogurt, right?
Yeah, meet me for yogurt. Same place, Santa Monica. Okay. I don't know if it's still there.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah. But anyway, so that's a Halloween review. Go see it.
Go see it.
We out.
That's so good.